Let me introduce myself. My name is Margo Hendrickson, and I work at the Treatment Research Center at the University of Pennsylvania at 3900 Chestnut Street in Philadelphia. Now, I am a therapist there, and every day I am helping people make change in their lives. And to be honest, it's a privilege to be in people's lives when they're making these changes. Now, at the Treatment Research Center, it's very specific to certain behaviors. What we're looking at is reducing or stopping alcohol use and also drug use. But all the same techniques, and what we use there is motivational interviewing and cognitive behavioral therapy. And all of those same techniques can be used for any healthy lifestyle change. And that's why Dr. Oslin and I had this idea that all of these things we're using can actually benefit others who are trying to make other changes around nutrition, right? Around stopping smoking, reducing stress, any of these lifestyle changes, exercise. Things do not change, we change. Henry David Thoreau. Now, it's important, I want you to keep this in mind. I'm going to end with the same quote because it really fits in with what we're trying to do tonight. Because a lot of things are going to get in your way when you're trying to make these changes, right? And that's what we're going to be looking at. How do you overcome these obstacles? What I want you to have is the feeling that money can't buy. Have you ever made a change already? I know I have. Oh my goodness. That's what I tell my clients. It's the feeling. If you had $1 million, you couldn't buy this feeling, right? You can't buy this feeling. Nobody can give you this feeling. This is only a gift that you can give to yourself, whatever the change is. And keep in mind, you've made changes already, and you know that feeling. I want you all to have this again with whatever you have in mind tonight, because that's what brought you out here, right? You want to make a change. So we want to give you the feeling money can't buy, but we can't give it to you. Dave and I can't give it to you. You're going to give it to yourself, and it is a gift, okay? Now, I want to know what's draining your energy, okay? What is your energy drain? It's the thing that keeps coming up for you whenever you come up against this thing that you haven't changed yet, but you've been thinking about it, right? But every time it hits you, every time you have to deal with it, it sort of drains your energy, right? That's what it's doing. So it also steals your self-esteem and some of your self-confidence. And it does it over and over again until you address it. So we're going to be doing 3 things tonight. We're going to choose a behavior change. I told you this is going to be very interactive. I want you to choose something. We're going to assess your motivation for change. That's very important. You can't just run to change. We have to assess whether or not you really want this change and resolve ambivalence about that. There's always some ambivalence about making this change, right? And then some strategies. There's dozens of them. We can't go into all of them tonight, but we can give you some good ones, okay? All right, now, let's get started. I want you to put your feet flat on the floor. And I want you to just put your shoulders back and let them fall. Just relax. I want you to kind of think about it. Maybe you've already thought about it driving here this evening. Just think about that change you want to make. Get it in your mind. Zero in on something, because we're going to be doing some exercises around that. So I want you to be sure which one you're going to concentrate on, okay? Does everybody have something they want to work on this evening? Okay, good. Okay, so whatever you work on tonight, all of these skills can be transferred to any other behavior change you want to make. But I just want you to zero in on one tonight. Okay, now, here comes the fun part. We're going to assess your motivation for change. You've got something in mind you want to change, right? But do you really want to change it? That's what we're going to figure out tonight. So I am going to give you now a form. And what this is called is a decisional balance sheet. And this is for you to weigh out for yourself the pros and cons of making a change. Now, the left-hand side are the reasons to stay the same. And then the right-hand side is the reasons to change. Now, you might say, well, wait a minute, Margo. I don't want to look at the reasons to stay the same. Yes, you do. Let me tell you why. Tonight, 98% of you wants to make this change, right? You're excited. 2% of you doesn't. When you get out there on a Friday night and the pizza guy's at the door, right? All of a sudden it switches up on you. 98% of you doesn't want to make the change anymore and 2% does. So what we want to do is let's get it down in black and white. What are the reasons to stay the same and what are the reasons to change? And the truth is you are going to weigh it out for yourself. Okay? So we're going to take a couple minutes here. In the upper left quadrant, we have what are the benefits of staying the same. There are some benefits to not changing, right? It's what's held you back. And then, what are your concerns about change? In other words, what's going to be difficult about this task? And then, on the right is what are your concerns about staying the same? Why do you want to make this change? And then, what are the benefits of change? And then, the benefits of change is where you want to really focus on your vision for change. Pretend you're on the other side of it. You've already got it, okay? So take a minute, a couple minutes, and fill that out. Here's the key question. How's it weighing out for you? Look at your sheet. Which side's heavier for you? And they're all weighted differently, by the way, right? Just because you have like 10 in one block, they're all weighted differently, so it may not weigh out exactly the way it looks for a number of items, right? Any surprises for anyone? Or these things you already knew? Pretty much you knew what was holding you back and what was making it difficult. Okay, good. So that's the key question. Now, our next exercise is about whether or not this is a priority for you, okay? So vision is a crystallization of what you want to create. So when you change or create a new habit, that's what it is. You're creating something, right? So again, I want you to get relaxed. I want you to put your feet flat on the floor. Let's just really get into this now. Put your shoulders back and just let them drop. I want you to relax. Just concentrate on your breath for a moment. And I want you to picture in your mind's eye the change that you're trying to make, that you want to make. Now, I want you to suppose that a miracle happened. And this actually happened. You're on the other side of successful change. How wonderful is this? But I want you to really visualize. What does that look like? Please paint a picture in your mind of that. Okay? Does everybody have that? All right. Now, what does it look and feel like now that you've made the change? You're on the other side of it. Does it feel good? Okay. Now, this is an important question. What is the most important thing in that picture? Because the most important thing in that picture to you right now is what is going to keep you motivated, okay? So that goes along with our motivational piece here. We are still assessing our motivation. So let me explain what this is. When people are talking to their doctor like Dave, they'll say, oh yes, I want to do this and I want to do that, and yes, I want to stop smoking, and they always act like it's for health reasons. And in my office, they'll say, oh yes, because it's my high blood pressure, and it's this, and it's that. But it's not always, it's usually the health reasons. I'm sorry to tell you, Dave, the health reasons are way out here. As you get further into the bullseye, that's what makes it deeply personal again, the real reason you want to change. Sometimes it's simply about appearance, and that's okay, but don't fib to yourself and say it's because of your blood pressure or your cholesterol or something like that. So let me tell you a story of one of my clients. I'm going to change her name, of course. Her name's Jan. And she would tell me all these reasons why she wanted to eat better and exercise. And she was successful in many, many areas of her life. And I would say, you know, I think there's more to this, Jan. Come on, let's really get at this thing. And suddenly it hit her, and it's like a click happens. She expressed it as like a little flip in her stomach. And she said it was because she was eating junk food at school and then teaching something else to her children at school. She was eating junk food at home, but fussing at her children for eating junk food. So she felt hypocritical in this one area of her life, and yet her value system was in sync with everything else she was doing. So that was her click. She wanted her children and the other children she taught to see an adult doing the right thing, doing things that were healthier. Okay, so now I want you to think, what is your motivational bullseye right now? Usually, this is the thing, that little click, this thing, that the bullseye, that's what's going to keep you going when times are tough and when there are obstacles in your way. So next, we are going to look at the strategies for change and overcoming obstacles for change. So this is real important. This is why you came, right? So we're going to look at the first item is become a master regrouper to overcome obstacles. You're not going to get this done with plan A. There's going to be a plan B, a plan C, a plan D. Nobody makes change the first time around. Dr. Osmond will tell you about that a little later in the seminar. We see this all the time. It takes several attempts sometimes many, many attempts. So don't feel bad about that, but the point is you have to keep regrouping. You have to be a master regrouper at this. So let's say your husband's out of town. You do have to hire a babysitter if you want to exercise, right? Can anybody think of any other examples where you may have to just, well, let's say the kids are sick and you can exercise. Let it go. You start again when the kids are better. So you can't beat yourself up. We also don't want to see the violation effect. Do you want to explain the violation effect? The abstinence violation effect is just, hey, I just had one bowl of ice cream. I'm going to have another. It's the old slippery slope, right? I didn't exercise all week because the kids were sick. I'll get back into it in the spring. I'll get back into it when the kids are out of school, right? So you have to realize there are going to be obstacles. That's a given. But you have to do something about it. So what I want you to do is make plans ahead of time. I want you to know your obstacles. You got to write them down. You know what they are already. You've tried to make these changes before. Everybody knows what their obstacles are, right? I know mine's time. Anybody else want to shout one out? Truth is, if I don't exercise in the morning, I'm not exercising. So I'm not even going to, I pretend, yeah, oh, I'll go this evening. No, I don't. It's got to be in the morning or I'm not going to do it. So that's an obstacle. If I don't do it in the morning, I'm not going to do it. Have to get up at a certain time if you want to exercise. So write them down and then accept and adapt to anything that comes up. You're going to go from plan A to plan B to plan C. Okay, these obstacles are going to be there. You've got a whole list of them now. You got to accept them and adapt to the challenge. That's how real behavior change is made. Okay? So, next, this is a good one. And somebody already brought this up. We want to transfer motivation from another area of your life to the specific change you want to make now. It's so interesting because people who are highly successful at work, or they're the greatest parent, or they're great at taking care of their pets. They really love their pets. Put a lot of time and energy in this, and money, right? But what they want for themselves, that change, whether it's stop smoking, exercising, reduce alcohol use, decrease their stress, go to yoga class, they just don't seem to put the energy there. Instead, their energy is drained every time they come up against this, right? We talked about the energy drain. But think about where you are successful already, and think about how much time and energy you put into that. So if you really want this change and you're going to make it a priority, you've got to give it more time probably. Maybe even more money. We don't know. Again, it's up to you. So you have to make it, I think, non-negotiable. See, you don't wake up and say, gee, I wonder if I'm going to brush my teeth today. You don't say, gee, I wonder if I'm going to pay my taxes this year. And you don't say, gee, this is March, I wonder if I'll pay my bills. Of course not. These are non-negotiable items, right? You get your car inspected, you do all these things. Okay, you got to view this change you're trying to make as non-negotiable. Again, there's going to be obstacles, but the non-negotiable part comes in when you adapt to the challenge. You accept it, you adapt, and you do something else to get it done. Because that's what you're doing with these other things. If you're sick, you don't pay your bills that day, but a couple of days later, you're on the computer paying your bills, right? Okay. Now, the next one is the basis of all cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay, we are going to catch and change the automatic negative thoughts that we have around the behavior change, right? Everybody has them, it's normal. I just don't want you to be held hostage to them. What I want you to do is catch them. By the way, that's very difficult to catch negative thoughts. Think about the specific change you're thinking about this evening. Think about the negative thoughts that keep you from accomplishing that. Now, let's look at a couple examples. We call them ants. It's kind of a silly name, but you know what? It's easy to remember. Yeah. So let's look at some examples, and then I hope to get some from the audience. Here's a negative thought about exercise. I'm too tired to exercise. And sometimes it's not a thought, it's an image, by the way. You see yourself getting dressed like, oh, I don't want to do this. The change thought is, but I get energy when I exercise. So we don't want you to be held hostage to the I'm too tired to exercise, when in fact, you have to override it with a different thought, a change thought. Another negative thought. I deserve a reward. I'll have some ice cream. The change thought might be, but you have to think about this stuff. It'll taste good for 10 minutes, and then I'll feel bad about myself for hours. How else can I reward myself? And by the way, you have to think about how else you can reward yourself. You do have to have those things in place. Just like I told you to make a list of the obstacles, please make a list of rewards. What are the rewards when you meet your own goal? Yeah, you're going to get the feeling money can't buy. We already talked about that. Your energy's not going to be drained, but you also get a reward. And there's a lot of science around this now, and Dr. Oslin can talk about that, about the reward system in the brain. They're doing a lot of studies on this, and guess what? It works. That's all you need to know, right? So, okay. Now, can somebody give me one of their negative thoughts? What are some of your negative thoughts about a behavior change you want to make? Yeah.
I don't know how to cook healthy. I don't know how to make it happen.
Okay, so that's a good one. That's an interesting one, because you feel overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. And it's a picture. Is it like an image in your mind and a thought, or is it just a thought?
Well, I have absolutely no interest in cooking.
Yeah.
It's compounded by the fact I don't care about it.
Yeah, and yet, what would But what's the bottom line? You want to eat healthier.
And I want my family to healthy too.
Okay, okay. So sometimes we're not making a change. This is a very good point. Sometimes we're not making a change because we don't have the tools we need to do that. And that's what you're suggesting. You're suggesting, I'm overwhelmed by the thought of cooking these kinds of meals. I'm not into this. Okay. So, does anybody want to help her out? What, yes?
Channel 12, Jim Coleman. He's the best.
Good.
He's easy, healthy recipe.
What's his name?
Jim Coleman.
Coleman, okay.
That's great, thank you. But that's a very, very good point. And some people don't know what gym to go to, or if they want to go to a gym, or if they want to walk, or what they want to do. Sometimes you do need some extra help with this kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So that's real important. Anybody else have an automatic negative thought that they have about their change on a regular basis? Yes?
Living alone, there's nobody checking up on me, so if I do it tomorrow, you know.
You're not accountable to anyone.
Not accountable to anyone.
Right, right. So that's really, really interesting, because now with that one, probably you're going to have to think about the reward in and of itself for you. And the other thing is support groups. How many support groups do we have for just about any kind of behavioral change you want to make nowadays? That might be something you're interested in. And you can talk to me about that after this. Maybe I have some ideas for you as well. But it is, for some people, they really need to be accountable, and that's what you're suggesting. And it's easier for them to do it that way. Anybody else? Automatic negative thoughts, ants.
See, I'm trying to get out of pain, and I lost my doctors to get a new doctor and to discuss all my problems, to get them to agree to my medicines that we need to change something so I get out of the pain I'm in. It takes so much effort. Do you know what I mean? Like they're like, let's start slow, let's start. It's like, I've been in the pain, I know the pain, let's start slow, we need to make it end. So I know it's a long process that I have to go through to get out of pain, but is it worth the effort sometimes to leave me in?
So those are the automatic negative thoughts. You're really battling on a daily basis. Now for that, I'm going to suggest when it's really, this is really tough, what you're going through, sure. You'd have to write those down.
I know.
You have to write them down, and then just like we did with the line down the middle, okay? That's going to be on the left side. On the right side, you're going to counter those thoughts with the most realistic, logical thinking that you can come up with, just like you did. I know I have to start somewhere. So that would be a counter thought or a change thought. I know I have to start over, but a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Lao Tzu, right? Okay. But talk to me after this as well, and Dr. Oslin. We may have some ideas for you. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So, now this is important, and we already touched on this a bit. So, here I say, only enlist people that have your best interest at heart, who will encourage you, not deflate you, or second guess your plans for change. Everybody's shaking their head on that one. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, even loved ones can really discourage us. So you have to be careful. For some people, they're much better if they're actually building some momentum first, doing it on their own, and then people notice your behavior change rather than you're telling them about it. For other people, as you suggested, they need to be accountable, so they're going to tell everybody. And then if they don't make that change, they feel like they'll feel bad about that because they already told people, so that's going to help them out. And for some people, that does help them, right? But be so selective, folks, about who you share this with, because sometimes we'll just blurt it out to the wrong person. You really have to feel safe with that person, and again, they have to have your best self-interest at heart. And everybody knows who that person is, I think. Right? Okay. So, now the support may include, you know, community resources like your family doctor if you're trying to stop smoking. I mean, think of the options out there nowadays. And we'll talk more about that at the end. How about a nutritionist if you really need to get going? We already talked about food shows. They do get the juices flowing and get you started, right? A personal trainer sometimes. I know it's expensive, but remember how much time and energy we put into other things and financial resources we put into other things. So a personal trainer is not such a bad idea. I have found that a personal trainer, if I have to pay, I will be there in the morning. And I will be there the rest of the week because I already paid for a trainer. So, and then of course, a counselor. Sometimes, if it's really deep-seated or deep-rooted, you may need to talk to someone about it. Sometimes you can talk to a friend, and sometimes you need an objective person to talk to. So, things do not change, right? We change. You have to be careful of the obstacles. Please write them down. Also write down a list of rewards. Now, again, this is all just to get you started. And what we really want you to have is the feeling money can't buy when you start to make these changes. It's a great feeling. And I see people every day at the TRC who make changes. And it's, as I said, it's just a privilege to be there and to watch that process. But it is a process, and it does take time. And please remember that there is a stopping and a starting. Just never, never give up on yourself. And you have to say that to yourself. Never give up on yourself, and never give up on the change you're trying to make. It really is worth it. Thank you for coming this evening. I appreciate you being here.